And cheer very, very loud. That's a great idea. And then his time is definitely over. So our first 5-minute slot is for our senior developer.
Hello, can you hear me? This is my first lightning talk, so please be kind. I'll try to get through it. So my talk is senior developer on Ruby. You can see I'm a pirate. But I'm also a senior developer. And this is me. I'm filled in the internets. And I'm living at Hamburg, Germany, and doing freelancing Rails stuff and Ruby stuff. And, well, at ArrrrCamp, you're doing it wrong. This is the real logo, and I brought some more t-shirts for all of you. So who wants a t-shirt? Free t-shirt? I guess senior developer will stay forever in this room. The real thing of my talk is my pet project. This is called On Ruby, and it's a community website for Ruby communities, and we are using it in Hamburg. And you can exit it on Ruby or on GitHub. And I want you all to encourage you to have a look at the page, and maybe if you want a community page for yourself in your local city, this might be a good starting point for you. Yeah, it's not only Hamburg that uses this, but also Cologne, Karlsruhe, Bremen, and Saarland. And we are also working with other German cities, but it's not only for German communities, you might also as well use it somewhere else. So why would you use it? You can manage stuff thanks to Active Admin, like the meetups and the talks and the materials you might need or link to. Users can log in, and once they register, you can use, they can access all the pages, or they can register to all the events on all the user groups. And you can also extend it because it uses OmniAuth. There's also a mobile version for your handheld, thanks to jQuery Mobile, and has some social media integration, so you can tweet about the next event. And yeah, that's it. Create a fork, create a pull request, or buy me beers. Thank you very much.
It works. It's like it already showed me that it. Well, then here we go. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Don't do anything. Okay. So my name is Peter Matischka. I want to talk today about the software that I created, Etherpad Lite. It's an open source software. It's used at Yammer. So what is Etherpad? So it's basically a web server. It's written in. Okay, yeah, it doesn't matter at the moment. So 2 or more people write together in real time on a document. Real time means like while you're writing, everyone else can see what you're writing. It's a bit like Google Docs, it's just much simpler. It works very well. So what can you do with it? Why is this useful? So you can use it for brainstorming if you want to collect ideas with your colleagues. You just can send them a link to a pad, that's how we call this kind of documents, and they can write their ideas directly in that. You don't have to send 1,000 emails back and forth. You can just use a pad, and everyone is literally on the same page. You can use it for meeting minutes. If you do a voice over IP conference, everyone can write minutes together. It's not like that one person has to write minutes and this person is kind of the idiot. Everyone can write about what they know well, so everyone can be sure that in the minutes there are things that they want to. You can use it for translation, especially long text. The cool thing is you can suddenly very easily crowdsource translations because you don't need one person that is very skilled in translating this. It's enough if you have 10 people that are able to speak both languages a bit, and they can correct each other, they can control each other, and absolutely in real time. And yeah, you can, in general, if you're not sure, if you write a newsletter and you're not sure about the wording, you can just send it to your colleagues and they can correct it directly there. You can write press releases together. Yeah, so it's super useful. But it's admin's nightmare. It has very high memory usage. It has memory leaks. It has very random high CPU usage. And it's very difficult to install. You really don't want to run this. You don't want to be the admin of that, believe me. It's also coder's nightmare. So it's written in 3 different programming languages on the server side, Java, Scala, and JavaScript. It all runs in one big JVM on the server side. There's nearly no documentation, and there are nearly no comments in the code. So this is how I found this open source project. It was originally created by a company that Google bought. And yeah, they open source it, and what they open source is useful for users, but coders and admins really hate it. So, but there's a solution now. So there's this thing called Etherpad Lite now, and what I did is basically I took the JavaScript that ran before on the JVM via Rhino, I ported it to Node.js, and it's much better now. It's like you use much less memory. We went from 2 GB to 30 MB RAM usage. We have much less code. We went from about 100,000 lines to 10,000 lines. And we made it so it's easy embeddable. So the idea is that you can just create a website, and part of your website is this Etherpad Lite. So basically you have a forum, for example, and you can say like, hey guys, you can discuss on this pad. And it has nearly the same function. So we called it Etherpad Lite at the beginning because we thought it will never have the same functions. But now we know we managed to copy nearly everything, and what isn't copied so far is because we thought it's a bad idea. So we will soon call it Etherpad again. So we are also in control of Etherpad, like we're the open source Etherpad Foundation. So it will be probably Etherpad 2.0. And yeah, and that's kind of it. So please help us install it and give feedback. It's on GitHub. It's this URL, jump URL. It's very short. You can type it in. Install it, give feedback, tell us what you like, what you don't like. Send pull requests. It's JavaScript. It's easy to read. And yeah, we also have a free Node channel. Cool. Thank you. One last thing, I think. Okay, we have T-shirts. Yeah, we have T-shirts at the back. We have free T-shirts too. So just go to the back when. Over there. Yeah, over there. At the end, not now. It's like we have Yammer T-shirts in every size. Go and grab them. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm here today to talk about ECMAScript 6, which is the next version of JavaScript. Why you should care now. There's 3 reasons. I can't talk about them in a 5-minute lightning talk, so go to that URL. But basically, works on Node. Browsers are getting faster at updating, and there's transpilers. Thing about JavaScript is there's a rule in new JavaScript called 1JS, which basically means JavaScript from now on is always going to be compatible with the last version, and there's never going to be modes or opt-ins. So you can take JavaScript that you run and start adding new features, and you don't have to worry about having to opt in, and then all your old JavaScript will stop working. So any JavaScript that you write will always work in new context. So I'm going to walk through examples somewhat quickly. So here's a function. You can see it looks a little bit like JavaScript, but there's a lot of extra stuff going on here. So first of all, that should say REST arguments. So just like in Ruby, you can say star args. In JavaScript, ES6, you can say ... elements, and basically means the same thing. You get an array. Seems bad. You get an array of arguments. There's a new shorthand for writing functions, which is a fat arrow. It basically works like a fat arrow in CoffeeScript, which is that it captures the this that is in its context. So here you can see an example of I'm looping through all the elements that were passed in. There's also string interpolation, which are called string templates. It's just a new syntax with backticks. Again, that's because of backwards compatibility. Backticks, dollar, curly, works like what you would expect. And then, as you see on the bottom, there is ... elements, and that works like the splat operator in Ruby from the other side. So you can have splat in a function definition, and you can have splat in a caller. These are actually some of my favorite features. This is how classes work in ES3 or ES5. You make a constructor function, you make a prototype. ES5 already has getters and setters. ES6 has a whole new syntax for classes. It basically is exactly the same as what I showed on the previous slide, but it's a lot more readable. So if you look here, there's a lot of noise. It's not really clear that there's even a class going on. Over here, it's pretty clear. I also am showing here that there are parameter defaults in ES6. So just like in Ruby, where you can say ID equals blah, you can basically say that, and it's an expression, so it's evaluated in the context of the function here. There's also method shorthand. This method shorthand is valid in both classes and object literals. So this is just so you don't have to say foo : function, curlies, parens, curlies, all that. You can basically do shorthand. Again, it works in object literals and classes. Okay, callback soup. So people, I'm sure, have seen this type of code where you basically have $getJSON, and then inside there you have a callback, and inside of there you have an animation, and inside of there there's a function. You can get nested, 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 nested. Cool thing, ES6 provides a feature called generators, and my favorite application of generators is this over here. So a generator is just a function star. So if people are familiar with Python, which you probably aren't, it's essentially the same feature. So function star is basically a generator, and really the only addition is that a generator is pausable. So the yield keyword means a little bit of a different thing than it means in Ruby. It means pause at this point. So there's also let, which is block scope variable. So as you probably know from JavaScript, you say var anywhere in a function. The var gets hoisted all the way to the top. Let is going to be scoped to the current block, the current curlies that you're inside of. Yield basically means pause execution. So basically, this is the trick here. You say let person equals yield $getJSON. That means go get your JSON and pause execution at this point, and you're basically yielding back to the spawner. So this code is actually coming from a library called task.js, which is already written in anticipation of there being generators, which currently only exists in Firefox, but will eventually be in all browsers. And this actually lets you take the crazy nested callback code and make it flatter. Extraction. So here we have some common code. You say render, you have options, you extract out a bunch of things out of it. ES6 has a feature called destructuring, which basically lets you say the same thing in less code. And you can actually use the destructuring also as a parameter. So you can say, instead of having to say options and then say template action layout equals options, you can say template action layout in the parameters. You can also do deep destructuring. So here I have a fake version of rack, and I'm just basically saying I have an array, s set cookie equals response, and you basically the inner cookie is being extracted out from a data structure that is the response. Okay, one last thing, maps. So ES3 does not actually provide facilities for having keys that are maps. Here's a map. It's a new standard object, iterated by for_of. Here you can see you can use destructuring in for_of, and you can make your own. You can use it in classes, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lucas. I want to talk about sketching. And I have one thing to confess about Belgium. So I will be living in Brussels for 1 year. And you need to know that I lost some weight this year. And then I came here and I saw this, and this, and this, and this. And now I am like, Belgium, what are you doing? Belgium, stop. So I am afraid of living here. 1 year left, so I don't know, maybe I will stay that shape, maybe not. So back to my presentation. Why should we sketch in things? Because for me it started like the most scary thing about plannings was the most scary sentence was it's small change. And since I started to work with UI and I worked with HTML, I often found myself changing HTML before sketching anything, and I thought once maybe I'll sketch it. Okay, so maybe I've just saved myself 37 commits or 377. So at this point you think, thank you, Captain Obvious, yeah, we should sketch. But I also learned something. Now I sketch, besides my projects, my own prototypes and so on, I sketch much more things. I sketch mind maps, and it helps me to clear my mind, to put this on paper. And the most important thing about this is that sketches are really extremely easy to throw out. And the code, the HTML code or any code, is much harder to throw out, and we love our code, so it's harder. And it's addictive, so I started with some UI things, and then with some classes, and then I sketched this presentation, like a mind map, and after some time it changed my approach to dealing with problems. So how to start? I encourage you to watch some videos by Ryan Singer. He talks about UI. And I think that even if you're not UI guy, you should know the basics when you work with web apps. And he shows there his approach to the problem, and he shows his mind, the process in his mind while he's sketching things. So dive into it, find your own way and tools. And for me, the basic tool is pen and paper. Don't remember that we don't need apps at the beginning. I am sketching on the train, I'm sketching on the bus when I have some ideas and so on. And then there are other things for UI, for everything like OmniGraffle, for mind maps. And I strongly encourage you to do that because it helps you to deal with problems in other way, to clear your mind and to get the problem, get to know the problem better. So thank you.
Oops. There you go. Hi, I'm Dave. I actually signed up for this before I was going to get another talk today. I'm not trying to hog things. I want to talk quickly about a recent, very basic I want to talk about the black screen. Okay. Yes. I want to talk quickly about a very recent refactor pattern I kind of stumbled upon. It's nothing deep, it's nothing amazing, but it was really, really useful. And it's using decorators as interfaces or contracts. So we had this little bit of code like this. It was a class. It was actually an active record object, but it had this little display, or this little view concern in it, display title, composed some attributes. It's a virtual attribute. And actually I inherited this code. This probably should have been somewhere better, like a decorator to start with, but you've only got one of these. So it's fine in the model for now. Later, when it's bad, we'll move it somewhere else. We have a view to display it, and this is great. But what happens when the case is that you have two objects that really need to duck type alike? They need to respond in the same ways, they need to act the same ways, and you probably need to like fetch them and interleave them and use the same view for two different classes that underneath have very different attributes, for example. So I had to do this. And the very first thing I realized is that having that code, having that code in the object was bad news. So we put it in a decorator. Really simple. It's a Draper decorator, but it could be any decorator. And this separates the view concerns from the actual domain concerns. So this is nice. This is a start. And why did I want to do that? Well, the short answer was sometimes you need a different class, like I said, that has the exact same interface, especially for the view, to use that same view I showed a minute ago. So you'll know in this case I have essentially the same virtual attribute, but now it's in another decorator for a similar class. So I have the same interface. This is kind of the idea from Java of interfaces, even though Java I know is a bad word in this room. You have an interface that lots of things have to all subscribe to. They all implement the same functionality and just in different ways. So I've created an interface in display title just in 2 different classes in 2 different ways now. And they do very different things, but they can be displayed with the same view without having to change anything. So this is great. Yeah, this worked. Actually, it went into production that day. It made my life really easy. But part of it was that if I forgot to implement one of the elements of the interface, things didn't work so well. So, whoops, now it quacks alike, yes. So it would blow up if I didn't implement display title, for example, because display title is still being called in the view. And we can't just have things blow up, especially if you're in the middle of a smooth refactor. You want it to be kind of iterative refactor. You don't want to deal with exceptions. You may just want things to not appear. So the thing that occurred to me a few hours later, and the reason this is kind of cool to me, is rather than starting with a separate decorator for each class, create a base class that everything inherits from that implements all the methods you need, and just return blank. Don't return nil, because that'll blow up, but return blank or return the appropriate empty object from there, so you can still view it, just nothing will appear. But it will not blow up. You can even show it to a customer. You can iteratively work through things, and then each of the decorators for the specific classes re-implements each of those methods to do the right thing. So you have the original thing that all does the right thing. You don't have to think about it. But the new objects, all you have to do is inherit this decorator. It won't blow up. It just will be an empty page. And then you slowly say, oh, yeah, in that case, I'm going to just make the display title this. And then you show the customer, and they're happy, and they give you a check mark and pivotal tracker. And then you do the next feature that way. And at no point do you disrupt your testing or workflow with horrible exceptions. That's it. Thank you.
Just wait for the screen to appear. Okay. I'm Michel. You'll see my details later on. I would like to talk to you about The Librarian. Has anybody here read the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett? Okay, you know who the librarian is? The librarian is a wizard. And the wizard, the librarian, got changed into an orangutan by a spell gone horribly wrong. But being a librarian, he quickly realized that being an orangutan has its advantages. You've got 4 hands, so you can reach these high shelves and get these books that no one can reach. The librarian had also this peculiar habit of expressing himself with one word, ook. Who said that? Okay. So this single word, ook, was enough for him to express whole sentences, whole stories, to convey entire ideas. And geeks are geeks, and a programming language was created. So let's look at the details. What is ook? What are the design principles of ook? First of all, a programming language should be writable and readable by orangutans. Very important, readability. You all know the problems. To this end, the syntax should be simple, easy to remember, and not mention the word monkey, because that creates a separate syntax that the librarian used, and that was the word eek, which was used in times of stress or anger when he was being called a monkey. Third principle, very important to orangutans. Right, syntax elements. This new language, ook, is so much more readable because there are very little number of syntax elements. There is the ook. Just like in a plain sentence you would say ook. This is how it's inflected. Then there's ook. Repeat after me. Ook. Nice try. Okay. And then there's also the question, ook? Nice, nice. So these three syntax elements get combined into commands. They get combined in pairs, and you've got commands that are like this. So it's the Turing machine we saw yesterday. Yesterday we've seen the Turing machine where there was this tape that goes 0, 1, erases, and so on. So this one is increment the pointer, that's ook, ook. Then decrement the pointer, go back. Increment the number at the pointer, which is integers, not just zeros and ones. You can go up and down. You can write out whatever is on that position. You can read and write to that position. And then there's also a special structure for loops. Comments. Okay. So in most languages, there is a high need of comments because it's so esoteric for non-technical people. I'll let you read that one. I'm not going to read that. Then in the documentation, there was a patch that added one line. Okay. So, let's see some code. Who is going to be able to read this? So the point, to paraphrase Martin Fowler into the voice of the librarian, is anyone can write a code that a compiler understands. Please watch out for readability into your code. And that's it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. There we go. So, big terminal, but that's not what we're talking about right now. I'm here today to tell you that you don't know shh. And I'm not going to be vulgar because I'm only talking about your shell. You really don't know anything about shells. There was a great movie, and it came out, I think, in the 80s, an American movie called Full Metal Jacket, and there was actually a long scene where he basically says, "This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this is mine. Without my rifle, I am nothing. Without me, my rifle is nothing." And that's how I feel about my shell. We really need to be awesome with our shell. And I'm not talking about just any shell, because there's only one shell that shall rule them all. ZSH users, raise your hand. Everybody else in here sucks. So let me. I only have a couple more minutes. I actually have 4 minutes and 16 seconds to show you why ZSH is the best shell in the whole entire world. Let's talk about control structures. Everybody knows about your control structures. You have ifs, whiles, fors, and a couple others. But let me show you why ZSH is way more awesome than whatever you're using right now. So if I wanted to list all the files in my home directory, which I am in right now, I can do, with a for, I can do for I in anything, and then I can do a do, and I can do lsi, and I can do done. Pretty awesome, pretty awesome. But you know what, ZSH says, you know something, Brian, you're a busy coder. Why do you need to do all that? You know something? A lot of this here is fucking boilerplate. Let's just get rid of it. There you go. But that is only just a little small piece of awesomeness, which is ZSH. Let's move on. Anyone here familiar with the escape hacks in ZSH? I'm not the only person in the room that knows this. I can't be. Okay, let me show you this real quick. So ZSH has escape hacks. And let me go back here, and here they are. They're dot, single quote, q, and return. Can everybody say that? And the only reason I'm asking you to say that is so I don't forget. So the first one is dot. So let's say I wanted to list all the files in my home directory. I could do ls tilde. But let's say I wanted to do another command that actually used that command. So let's say if I type ls again and then do escape dot. Notice what it did. It actually pasted the last command, the last entry of my last command. Pretty cool. What's the second one? Single quote. So let's say I was typing a long sentence. This is fucking cool, you mateys. Arr. And let's say, I meant to quote that. No. All right, sorry, fail, because I'm looking. There we go. That wasn't a single quote. Notice what I did. Escape single quote will actually quote your lines. And if you have single quotes in your line, it'll actually take care of it. What's the next one in my list? Q. So Q is an interesting thing. So let's say I was typing some awesome, I can't spell, command. But I was like, no, I don't want to do that awesome command now. I want to do it next because I want to actually list the files in my home directory. So I can do escape Q, and what it'll do is it'll clear the line, and it pasted it again. Ah, that's a good one, isn't it? So we're all nerds here, and what we like to do is we like to type a lot of things in our command line. So if I'm typing a long command, I'm going to do ls, but you could do semicolons. But sometimes I don't want semicolons, because I can do escape return, escape return, escape return. Notice that it just wrote ls 3 times. So guess what? How do you feel right now? Yeah, you feel exactly like this. So real quick, how much time do I have? All right, 1 minute. So we're going to move up, and we're going to move up. So I want to show you something about this command called Z. It only works on Z shell. This is the URL for that command on Z shell. And what it will do is it'll get rid of some of the repetitives you do for typing in files or like CDing around. So let's say you wanted to CD to a file, a directory. I go to my Java directory for my simulator all the time, so I can type Z Java. Look what it did. It put me in that file. It put me in that directory. The way that it works is that it actually looks at every time you do a CD and it adds it to a stack. And then it actually, even better, it actually ranks those in the stack. So it can actually tell all the directories I go to. There's no porn on here, so we're all right. So that's a little bit of the smidgens of Z. And actually, one more question. What does a cow say? No, it says thank you. You guys, thank you.
Okay, hey, so I'm Adam, and I'm going to be the guy that tries to do live coding at a lightning talk at a conference. I'm immediately regretting this. If you've seen this before, this is going to be really boring. I apologize. If you haven't seen it, I hope you enjoy it. I want to talk about hash new. If I assign h equals hash dot new, and then what have I done? No. It's going well already. Hash dot new. Is it going to work now? Yes. All right. I have a hash. I can try and access a key in the hash. I get nil. Excellent. There are no keys in the hash. There are no keys in the hash. Yes. Excellent. Okay. So if I do hash dot new and give it a string of bacon, why not? I like bacon. And I then try and access the hash. I get bacon. But there are still no keys in the hash. That's good. That's good. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can. Let's have a go. Is Chris here? Can Chris wave? There's Chris. Chris taught me something about this last night, which I found amazing. Hash also takes a block, right? So you can do hash h equals hash dot new block, and the arguments to the block are going to be the hash that you just created and the key that it gets called with, which is interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the hash, we're going to look into it with the key, and we're going to assign that to 0, right? Interesting. So now when I do hash, foo, like foo, it's going to return 0. Hash foo plus equals 1, it's now going to start counting. And that's really cool, right? Clear that. If I do hash bar, that's going to equal 1, and we'll start counting that. And now my hash.keys contains foo and bar, and they have counts. We were discussing various reasons that this could be useful. Cheap counters and stuff, really good. More useful than returning a default value, perhaps. I don't know. This, similarly, you can do something. I'm not going to do that again. Hash equals hash. Hash.new takes the block with the hash and the key. And we're going to do, again, the hash is going to be in the key. And that is going to equal to HTTP party, which I've already required, I hope. Dot get. Okay, so now I have a super cheap caching structure, or I can go hash URL. Hope the internet works. Have I spelled that right? Probably not. Yeah, that's interesting. Come on, internet. Yes! So that went and got the page, and now when I call it again, it's going to return it immediately. So, yeah, that's some cool things that you can do with hash.foo, with hash.new, rather. I don't know why you'd want to do any of them, but there you go.
Okay, yesterday at the boat party we had a little joke going on that if I had just a few visitors at my talk because Steve Klapnick was giving an excellent talk, I would just give the same talk again at a lightning talk, so here I go, really, really fast. So Spree is a 100% open source e-commerce platform. Short history, gets really fast, get millions of dollars in funding and start a new company. And we had some conferences, contributors, a lot of downloads, and current state of Spree is that we have Spree version 1.2.0. App structure of Spree, it's just an engine you can use at the Rails app, so you can include Spree Core, Spree Command, Spree Dash, Spree Promo, and Spree API. That's the basics of the Spree gem. Recently they have extracted the device authentication into a single gem. So you can use your own authentication if you like, and can integrate Spree with, for example, Refinery or something else that extracts authentication for you. And custom extensions, really, really important. It's a very low, very easy system to extend your own store with. So to create your first shop, you need to install Rails, need to install Spree, create a Rails app to install Spree into, and use the Spree install command. The -A accepts all the questions. And this is the basic view you get if you also seed the database with some sample data. Don't do this. Use the Git stable branch. It gets updates more faster, and it's really highly maintained by Ryan Big. And now what? Extension registry. There are lots of extensions at the current moment, and this is the website you can visit for the requisite extensions on the Spree Commerce website. I normally try to search in GitHub for the Spree with fork false option, and currently there are 1,376 extensions available. So if you need a solution, probably something there already or some starting point you can use. An extension in Spree is basically just a Rails engine, and you can create one by using the Spree extension command. Spree will create a similar folder structure for you if you create it in a similar Rails plugin. But it adds some extras like a test app which has a Spree store in it, so you can do proper integration testing. This is the engine file. You can see it's just a simple engine. The self-activate loads the underscore decorator inside your app, and it's set up with Capybara Factory Girl, so you can do actually integration testing. For some decorator, you just do call a Ruby file, whatever you like, with the underscore decorator. You can open the product class with class eval, add the shown homepage and the scope to show the products on the homepage. So this extension is almost done. Keep your extensions small and concise if possible. I don't need to explain why. Do not create a site extension. It will become the config initializer sinkhole. Hire great designers. Oh, I don't need to make any more commercial slides for them. And deface. Deface is a really nice gem written by Brian Quinn, which can replace parts of HTML in your view and does it in the render step only once. And sometimes you need to do deface option. Sometimes you need to use deface, and sometimes you don't. And deface overrides, they live in the app overrides folder. And this is the way you create a deface override, just by speccing it out in a Ruby file. They have a new DSL, which allows you to group things in folder structure of the virtual path that you're overriding. So you can use a deface extension and have a HTML comment that is actually the XPath expression that's being used to replace the content. And the body of the file, that's the content that you're replacing. You can also use Haml, by the way. You can find the gem there. Sometimes you just need to override a complete view if you note you don't need any default spree views. And so just create the view path in your app and it's always get overloaded. So this is just a sample that I did. So where are my spree views? I tried to use the git t command on GitHub to find some views. I used bundle open spree core to open up an editor and browse to everything that's in spree core. I tried to clone the code and symlink it in my project and use the gem path expression in my gem file. So you can do the command T and search and everything, but I really, really hated it. So I created a gem called Gravity, and Gravity is gives you a nice arrow at the left corner. If you open it up, it will list out all the views and the layout files that are there, even the overrides for that specific layout or template. All the parsers are there. If you click on it, you can see the code that's in there. So the virtual path is there, the content is there for you to override and create your deface hooks. This is the shopping cart. Normally you would be looking for a cart edit maybe or a cart new, but it's actually an edit on an order. So this confuses a lot of newbies that start with spree. It's actually the template you need to override is spree orders edit. Currently status is an untested spike. But I will push it on GitHub soon. It was the same discussion on the same boat at the same party yesterday. Don't be afraid to push out bad code because there's grift everywhere. Questions? Probably not. One more thing. Recently they launched the new admin design. It was up for like 2 years. Keep getting questions in the mailing list in IRC. And they actually merged it in master, I think 2 days ago, and there's a blog post on it. This is the original spree administration interface. And this is the current spree admin interface. And I even managed in 5 minutes, or even shorter. Thank you very much.
So, and with that, I would like to thank all the guys who are giving a lightning talk, and we're up for our last